Welcome back. Hi, everyone. Karibuni. And welcome back to the Perfecting Me podcast by yours truly, Michelle. Mwah. Thank you guys so much for coming back. If this is your third time here, God will bless you. If this is your first time here, He will still bless you. But I'm just so grateful to have you guys here with me today. And I'm still just filled with so much gratitude and love for all of you that have been here to support me this whole time in this journey. It honestly is still very new. I'm still trying to keep myself structured and hold myself accountable because I know that this is something that I'm really passionate about, but definitely am getting used to juggling the podcast life with my already existing life. But so I don't talk too much, let's get straight into it. Today's topic is about people pleasing. This is something that I know all too well. All my life, I found myself trying to please others. I was very afraid about being seen as different, being seen as an outcast. And it was very important to me that I fit in. And I think that's something that a lot of people subscribe to, especially in today's society where social media really leads the minds of our people of today. Everybody bases what they do off of what they see others do in social media. Like, for example, the uprising posting pictures with roses. Like, I seen the trend, might have hopped in on the trend, who knows? But people really heavily do rely on social media. It was really city girl life and now it's soft girl life. From as far back as I could remember, I really struggled with identifying with what I knew I held dear in my heart, you know? Like as a younger kid, I was in elementary school. I had no business wanting to appease other people, but I can remember actual times from elementary school and middle school where I performed in wanting to impress my friends and not be bullied and not be ostracized. And funny enough, in a recent class that I took, my relationships class, I'm a family and human services major, right? So I take a lot of classes about different existing relationships. So one of the classes I took was just like relationships, so kind of encompassing all of them, family relationships, romantic relationships, and friendships, right? So forth. And in that class, I learned about how people really don't want to be alone. People are terrified of being alone. And people are so afraid of being alone to the point where they like still call people friends that they haven't spoken to in the last 10 years. Ooh, seriously? They don't want to unfollow people that they don't even know anymore, people that they even see don't even align with what they used to align with or what they align with now. And I think it's something within insecurity, you know, last week's topic. If you didn't watch that, go check it out right now. I personally believe that everything stems from fear. I read this book called The Mastery of Love. Um, I know the author's first name is Dawn, but don't quote me on the whole name. But I really do think everyone should go out there and read The Mastery of Love. When reading this book, I learned about how subscribing to fear really controlled my life. And although this isn't the topic of this week's episode, and I can get into that another day, trust me, fear really rules all. It's like one of two sides. I know that everything is a spectrum and you can fall anywhere between the spectrum, but you definitely don't want to subscribe to fear, as fear only perpetuates negativity, you know? And although people can find ways to make it not, the truth is it does. And when it comes to people pleasing, if you're fearful of lacking, if you're fearful of being misunderstood, if you're fearful of being considered a loser or being outgrouped, I think these are all insecurities that really heavily motivate people pleasing. And make it really hard for people to give up on relationships that they know no longer serve them. However, I think the complexity of it all is that you know these people don't serve you. Oftentimes, you know that the people that you are allowing in your space are people that you don't really want to be around, or are people that don't really accept you or wouldn't accept you if they knew the person that you really were. And so I think it's very important for people to learn who you are. That's step number one. Step number one, I would say, is learn who you are. You must learn who you are to be able to put yourself in environments that serve who you are. I, for example, um, loved to sing, right? I loved to sing. Growing up as a little girl, I wanted to be a singer, and I wanted to be a counselor, and I wanted to be a neurologist, but child, clearly I just loved this area. But I loved to sing, and it was something that really inspired me and really motivated me, but I gave up on that idea once I got to middle school. But I was still in choir because I saw that the girls that happened to be the cool girls were also into choir kind of. And so, but I can 100% say to you that if I had seen those girls did not like choir, I would not have participated in choir. And choir happened to be the best part of my life. I ended up really loving my friends and really cherishing those relationships. I'm still friends with a lot of those girls that I became friends with then. But it's just crazy because knowing that if I had allowed myself to subscribe to that fear, if the cool girls were not in that group or whatever the hell I was doing, I would have missed out on a lot of great relationships. I would have missed out on friends who served me. And as I got to high school, although I didn't judge people, and lucky enough for me, not being judgmental allowed for me to develop a lot of relationships in a lot of areas that I don't think people would have expected me to have friends in. I still feel like I noticed how it was extremely hard for me to not cross boundaries as far as upsetting the people that allowed me to be in group or not. What I mean by that is, even though my friends were the popular friends and I had that comfortability of lying on that, and I wouldn't even say popular because like I said, I don't think my high school or I don't think my high school really had popular groups. I think everyone in their own bubble, in their own retrospect, thought they were the popular group, which made it work. It worked for us because everyone wasn't really checking for everybody else. Although I'm sure people still cast judgment or whatever because people are human. But I know that my group was the group that was seen as stereotypically hip, as far as social media's culture and especially today, I can say we were very on trend with jumping on the black bandwagon, if you know what I mean. But I'm a black girl, and I understand the complexities of wanting to fit in. Again, people pleasing. I think if I didn't have the knowledge that I have now of people pleasing, I wouldn't be able to offer grace to a lot of the people that I love most, which again, I'd be burning bridges stupidly, all because of insecurity and ego and pride. And because I'm able to understand the pressure of wanting to fit in and wanting to be accepted and not wanting to be weird, I had to fight for my spot. Like I said, my friends were that group that were considered stereotypically in, hip, cool. My best friend growing up was had a cool older sister or whatever. So it was definitely when I saw her, I knew her, but I definitely was heavily motivated in becoming her friend because I didn't want to be a loser. I knew that the group that I was friends with and the spaces that I cherished most, I was considered a loser. To a lot of other people, and it became a desire of mine to fit in. It became a desire of mine to not be considered a loser. And although, like I said, I had a lot of relationships, I developed a lot, I didn't really let that stop me due to my, you know, due to me refusing to be judgmental and me accepting people of all kinds. I definitely still didn't allow myself to develop deep relationships with people that I knew my friends thought were weird, or that I may have heard people that I surrounded myself with often judge, or I didn't allow my peers to know that those were parts of myself that I really heavily identified with, and that I also really admired those people, and that a part of me, you know, not only wasn't judgmental of them, but also saw a part of myself in them. And I think that that's often where judgments come from. It's from seeing a part of yourself in that person, and it often being a part of yourself that you don't like. And so you try to make the fact that they overtly express this characteristic or this aspect a reason why you are able to be deemed more valuable than they are. And it's something that I really personally had to outgrow and get over, because like I said, as a big girl, I definitely had that tendency to be like, ooh, thank God I ain't the biggest one in here. Or oof, the guys are not going to treat me like shit because there's a girl that's darker than me in here. And that's honestly so sad. Like, it breaks my heart to know that I didn't see beauty in the spaces that, like, I had no choice but to reside in. Like, that's who I am. I knew I loved to sing. I was so shy singing though. And like, once I was in high school, like, I never sang. Like, me and my friends never sang. We knew that, I think it was an unspoken thing that like it wasn't cool anymore, even though all of us, majority of us had really beautiful voices and never used them. It's a shame to know how many talents are probably tarnished due to people pleasing. It's a shame to know how many potential relationships are self sabotaged. People dating people that their families would approve of. For example, the male community, I've noticed, at least where I'm from, which I'm sure, from what I'm hearing, I be talking to my cousin in the UK, and from what I'm hearing, the conglomeration is like that's everywhere. Thank you. But again, that I'm not here to be giving relationship advice, at least not yet. We can wait for that. I think the men of our generation are really grappling the idea of what it means to become a man, which leads them to rely on the men that they view around them and deem men, which oftentimes are also not men because they're also using other men to label themselves as men. And it leads to this dating girls that my homeboy dated, or only explicitly dating bitches that I know my homeboys gave the like okay on. Like, I've heard him say she was bad, or never messing with a girl that my boys would think is ugly, or just that I know they would bid on. And like, although I know, like I said, I've been there. I definitely had a time where if I showed my homegirls a guy and they went on him, I would not disclose that I thought he was cute, or it was definitely really hard to come to a place where me and my friends could all stand on that. Like, for example, me and my best friend, right? Love her to death. Growing up, we were next door neighbors and we were the same person. Like, it was like inverses of each other that became the same. I was short, she was tall. I was darker, she was lighter. Like, it was just so funny. I'm East African, she's West. We were literally different, but we were the same. And so with that, we had the same exact type in men. And I remember it being COVID and like us being forced to like be around each other. And it kind of felt like we were relearning each other, because for the first time we were, suddenly out of nowhere, we're grown. And like, it's actually real. Like, we actually can talk about guys because we actually like, want to see what that life is like. And it's not just a delusion or a fantasy anymore. It's something that we actually want to dabble in and socialize. And we're starting to realize that we don't have the same type anymore. And I think for the first couple of weeks, it was a little hard for the both of us, just because we didn't want to make each other feel, I could feel us not wanting to make the other feel uncomfortable for what they liked, while also not wanting to be made uncomfortable for liking what you like. And it was just so funny because we both didn't like what we originally used to like. Like, we both had completely different types. And now we can see the beauty. And, like, it's even a thing where she'd be like, girl, I seen this guy and he was so your type. And I'd be like, girl, where? And I look, and she was exactly correct. He was exactly my type from head to toe. And I could do the same for her. And I think there's beauty in that, rather than, like, us sitting and pretending to like the same type of guy. It doesn't serve you. But all that because of fear of losing a relationship or making things awkward or making things uncomfortable. People need to not fear uncomfortability as much as they do. Only because I know uncomfortability is scary, but it usually is one of those things that doesn't last long. And, like, for example, y'all be so down to sit in uncomfortability for a couple seconds when it comes to getting that tattoo or that piercing. New piercing every other paycheck. I already see you. But, I'm not calling myself out even, because I'm too broke to be doing that. But just know I would be in that community too. Regardless, all I'm saying is, if you can sit in temporary, like, physical pain, y'all can sit in toxic relationships, but you can't sit in an uncomfortable conversation with your friend about how you don't really like going to the club, or having that conversation with your roomie about how you don't want her to leave her split ends on the floor. It'd be things that don't even really matter, that we really hold on to so deeply. And also, when I think of people pleasing, I think the worst part of it all is the fact that we usually end up not pleasing these people. Oftentimes, the people that we're trying to please are people that are neglectful to our needs or to who we are as a person, or people that we're constantly trying to get to notice us, or who just never notice your efforts at all, never see you for who you are. I think there's value in finding people who see you, who truly see you. I mean, people who read you, rather than surrounding yourself with people who tolerate you or who benefit from you. When I cut off a lot of friends, it was the hardest thing that I had to do. I want nothing more than to please the people that are around me. There's nothing that I want more than to be in good standing, especially with someone that I love. Any person that I've called my best friend, any person that I have said was a sister or a brother, I loved beyond, like, words. But I think it was something about realizing that the person that I loved most was the person who hurt me most, or the person who made me feel the most misunderstood, and or who invalidated me the most. And I realized one commonality within a lot of my past relationships was that a lot of these people didn't see me. A lot of these people, they couldn't read me. Like, they knew me, like, they knew my favorite color. They could say my middle name, my birthday, how many siblings I had. They could probably tell you traumatic experiences that I went through, but did they see me? Like, did they know that, I was shy? A lot of my friends would always say, "Oh my gosh, Michelle, you're the open one. You're the talkative one. You're this and this and this." And it wasn't until I met someone who was like, "I can tell that you're low-key shy. I can tell that you're low-key." I definitely think I can be both, but a lot of who I was in high school was faking it, and nobody knew. No, because nobody saw me. Nobody really read me. Nobody really realized that it was all a facade, that it was somebody that was trying to appease them. And usually it's because when you operate on a facade, when you do things out of trying to please people, you do them falsely, and ingenuity just continues to promote that type of environment. So not only that, but it's like, I always tell my female friends who find themselves in situations with men, these are situations that I find myself in often, where you're entertaining a guy who is not giving you who gave you a lot of attention off rip, off jump, and you reciprocated that attention, and then all of a sudden that attention dwindles. I always tell these friends of mine that, first of all, like, everybody puts on that fresh new self, like they just went through their shed skin persona when they're meeting people for the first time, especially when it's somebody that you're trying to court. You want to present your best self. You want to present that version of yourself that you believe yourself to be. Now, the following days is a matter of if that person is who they believe they are or who they're not. Because truth is, a lot of people know, no, a lot of people want to believe that they possess qualities and characteristics that they don't. It's the inability to be honest with themselves that, again, stems from fear. You know, you don't want to be lacking, but that comes from you deeming those qualities lacking. Again, you know, not being truthful with yourself, not being honest with yourself about what you possess, and changing how you view those things. Let me take a sip. The same way that these men put that persona and we put that persona is the same way. Once that persona starts to die down, you will begin to see people for who they really are. And if you were believing that this person was operating off of like being genuine and presenting who they truly were and authentically were, you're now living in this delusion where you're holding on to this man that you believe you're dating, who in fact doesn't even know himself. You being who you were, you continued to present yourself as such and offer the same amount of love, the same amount of compassion, the same amount of respect and devotion to this person, all while failing to realize they no longer deserve the same amount of love, compassion, and devotion as you were giving anymore, because they're no longer that person that you're holding on to. And it's because of that insecurity, that feeling of lack, and that tendency to want to continue to please, that, you know, you find yourself in these ingenuine situations, and now you're not wanting to give up on a relationship, not wanting to burn bridges in a relationship with someone that you should have been able to see was never serving you. Then this person not only is taking advantage of you, but doesn't realize it because they feel as though they're entitled. Because you have presented yourself as this loving person who you are, which is fine. It's not a problem that you are the way you are. It's a problem that you continue to offer your heart and your love and your gratitude for free. These are things that should be earned, just like everything else is earned. You know, people have turned everything into a profit. So why not do the same with your time, the one thing that actually matters, you know? Time is the one thing you can't get back. You can refund so many things these days. You can work and hustle and make that money back that you feel as though you lost, but you can't get back time the same way, like, you know, you can't get back a family member, because you can't reverse time to go back to getting back that family member. Your time is just as valuable, so do not waste it on trying to please people, on trying to hold on to friendships and spaces that no longer serve you. Do not waste it on trying to maintain a version of yourself that you are not even sure exists, trying to uphold a version of yourself that is only to appease the lives of others and the desires and dreams of others. Because truth is, I know a lot of people who also fall into that space of, you know, wanting to be a certain person for their family because of a certain upbringing, because of certain experiences that they had. But truth be told is, you feel the feelings that you feel for a reason. You are the person that you are for a reason. And there's beauty in your differences. There's beauty in you choosing to follow through to you and who you are, despite it being different. And furthermore, there's beauty in being able to accept and love the differences in others. Like I said, there's power in those people who chose to stick and stay true to themselves despite knowing that they were outcasts. Like, especially in a time being in high school, like to choose to be ostracized, to choose to be different just to continue to maintain and uphold your self-expression and your identity is a powerful thing. Those are things that people should hold on to tightly. Don't allow anyone to taint your version of yourself that you know to be true, and don't allow for that version to turn into a falsehood that allows for you to want to continue to hold on to people that no longer serve you. People pleasing is so hard to get over because that delusion, it's so hard to understand that this person that you know to be this way lied. A lot of people have trouble with accepting that they were wronged, or that they were lied to, that they perceived wrong or were dumb to believe, gullible. But truth be told, you're better off in realizing that you're gullible, or that you have a tendency to be over generous, or whatever the hell you're trying to tell yourself that you are, than refusing to acknowledge that side of yourself and staying within that space. Thank you guys so much for today. I am so grateful to have the opportunity to talk to you guys. Please, please, please respond to my polls and let me know what you guys think about this episode and what topics you'd like to hear about next. Thank you. Kwaheri.